Hello and welcome everyone to a series that I nearly canned. So today we're going to be taking a look at a rare deck preview, and we're going to be taking a look at Messiahs. I did promise that I would do something for Link Joker, and we do have a special guest who is a Messiah genius and Link Joker extraordinaire, Mr. Zystral from YellowCard Vanguard.
Hello everyone.
Yeah, so today he's going to guide us through actually his own created Messiah list. We kind of debated lists for a little bit, and I think his is superior from what we've talked about, and so he's going to kind of guide us through it. We're going to talk about it here and there, and then still do the usual format. We're going to both commentate the game as well, so you'll get the full experience from both of us. The last time we did this, back at the end of G format, the video did really well, so, you know, hopefully you guys like this one just as much. But I guess for the new people that may not know about you, you might want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I've kind of fallen off a little bit. I've focused more on like the playing and the judging aspect, but my name's Zystral. I've been around for a while now. I main Link Joker, but I haven't actually played at an event for a while because at the same time, like, I'm caring about winning, so I'm playing the best deck in the format.
Yeah.
But I took a break out of Standard for a bit actually, just because it wasn't really enthralling. Like, I got a bit bored. The decks were kind of solving themselves, so I focused more on Premium. And it wasn't actually until you said, oh hey, I need some help for Standard, that I decided to take a look again. And then I spent like 2 or 3 days just like hardcore, like jamming like 70, 75 games with like different lists, experimenting with this deck. I went through like 2 or 3 different like revisions and versions. So just from like what I know of the deck and how I know the game kind of plays, and how, especially like how Standard is all either very grindy with Force or just kind of sacky with Axel.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I've taken into account to be a good point to work from.
Yeah.
I think there's still a few adjustments and improvements to be made here and there, especially with ratios. And I think there's also a few considerations you can make towards your local meta to adjust this list. But just from like me playing against things like Goldfishing against Shadows and Bermuda, I'm pretty happy with how this operates.
Yeah. Alright, so I also, like, when we're going to do the gameplay video, it's going to be gameplay from my perspective playing the list, and so that's the first time you'll ever see that game, so I think it's going to be good for us to go over that. You can probably point out some misplays I've done, if anything, so I think that's pretty good. So we'll get into the list. I mean, starter-wise, it's Neon Messiah, nothing too important, but we'll get into the first card, so I'll just go over the effects and then we'll talk about it. So the main trump card here is Harmonix Messiah, as a grade 3 this time. So he has 2 skills, one of which is on Vanguard Circle. When he attacks anything, you can search your deck for any card, call it on the Rearguard Circle as a locked card, and then shuffle your deck. So this is already really strong, just because it can tutor for absolutely anything. And so that's already a good start. And then the second skill is Vanguard Circle once per turn at the end of the battle that it attacked. If you have a grade 3 in your soul, then you may counterblast 1 and discard 1 card from your hand. And then if you do, you unlock all of your locked... you unlock all locked circles, so this can include your opponents if we ever get that in Standard. And for each unlocked card, you draw 1. And then for that turn, you choose 2 units, 2 of your front or rear guards, and they get plus 15k power each. So, give us a little breakdown for the strengths and weaknesses of this card.
Yeah, so I think this is one of the few, I think one of the first 2 or 3 multi-attacks we have in Force and Standard right now.
Yeah.
I think it's 2, right?
Yeah.
I think it's, not counting this one, this is the 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't count Overlord.
Yeah, of course, because that's not out yet. So the thing about Harmonix is that if you write it first, it's kind of sad. It's just like a free tutor to the board that they can attack, so it's not a straight plus. And usually if you're doing the multi-attack combo, you're going to be calling over one of your existing rearguards anyway. But I think the strength of the deck is that because it can still make multi-attacks and you're giving 15k power, you can afford to run a lot more crits because you have the ability to tutor, so you don't need to draw your specific combo pieces. And that then gives your Vanguard the pressure. So even though your Vanguard's not gaining power, you've got like, oh, I might sack a crit, and then I might give the crit to my big rearguards. So you've still got pressure options there. I think the only downside is that because it's a turn 4 VR, like you have to rewrite a grade 3 for it to be really good, you might experience like some issues catching up to Overlord or Neo Nectar just because they have really good early game. But I think like if you can get going and you get like the 4 attacks off every turn, then there's a lot of power there.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think I've played it and it's like, if you can really set up well, which the deck really allows you to because of this like tutoring effect, like if you can set up well, it can really push for big numbers, especially with forces. So I think that's definitely very impactful in a sense. But you know, you do need to be careful with how you play it out. You don't want to like waste triggers just because like you miscalled something and like, you know, you don't want to have like, because the unlocks are at the end of the battle, so it's like you also have to keep in mind not to like waste your triggers if you get just PG'd, you know. So that's also something to think about, I think, with this card. But I think that's a good overview, more or less.
Yeah, and a fun little interaction in Premium is that if you ride this and then you strike something where the cost of the G unit is turn a card with the same name as this unit from your G zone face up, you can actually flip the vanilla harmonics.
Which is pretty insane.
It's also absolutely not relevant, but it's just a nice little fun fact.
Yeah, true. Still cool though. Alright, moving on. This is where the grade 3 lineup doesn't get spicy yet, but pretty soon. So the next one we're going to look at is going to be the Ghastly Nail. So he has 2 effects, first one of which is Vanguard and Rearguard Circle continuous during your turn for each of your locked units. He gets plus 5k, which is pretty good. He can be a pretty buff beater with all the other cards in this deck. Second skill is Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill as well. When he attacks, you may Soul Blast 1 and choose 1 card from your hand and call it as a locked unit. And then if you did call, then you draw 1. So it's a 1-for-1, but it does put another locked card on your board, which you can unlock with Harmonics Messiah. So I initially was pushing for this card to be played as a 4-of, but Ben disagrees.
Yeah, I mean, I also started playing as a 4-of just because the synergies it has with the Messiah are there. But I found that when we get to the grade 2 lineup, you'll see why I don't like this card as much, because the applications are a bit more limited. Yeah. I think I really like this card as a early beat stick just because it has, like, it basically starts as a 23k beat stick, which is really, really nice. Like, nice. It helps you hit some magic numbers. Like, 23k is not ideal because they can just guard it with a crit, but it is still like good to have. Yeah. But I found that it'll become a bit more apparent as we get into the combos, but the multi-attacks that he enables are actually not really worth it. And on top of that, the Soul Blast cost, actually you'll find that between Destiny Dealer and another card that I really like, you're gonna struggle to like repeatedly get a full combo off more than once.
Yeah. No, I agree with that too. Like I tested this guy and like he felt okay, but at like sometimes there really was that 1-for-1, and sometimes like you didn't really want to call anything from your hand, but at the same time you wanted to like, you know, still dig for something. So there was that too. And the Soul Blast cost sometimes is, you know, with the amount of Soul Blast that you do in this deck, it did feel a little bit steep here and there. Yeah,
like the worst case scenario is that you call a trigger to boost with, and except it doesn't actually boost because it's locked, and then you draw a card.
Yeah.
But the other reason like we trim down this lineup is, as we'll see about the next card, because there's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah. So let's go over that immediately. So Ben chose to play 2 of the Schwarzschild Dragon. So this is a spicy tech, but I'll go over the skills first. So he has Vanguard runes per turn. You may counterblast 1 and choose one of your opponent's rearguards and bind it face down. And then second skill, which is the reason why we play him, Vanguard Circle, you may counterblast 1 and Soul Blast a grade 3 and turn all the cards in your opponent's bind zone face up. Your opponent cannot normal call cards with the same card name as the face up cards in his or her bind zone until end of their turn. So, give us the reason why are we playing this.
Well, actually, the second skill is not the reason. The first skill is the reason, which is that Ghastly Nail is actually... So you have to have a rewrite a grade 3 for Harmonics Messiah to be good.
Yeah.
So you have to rewrite either one of your other grade 3s first and then ride Harmonics, or ride Harmonics twice in a row.
Yeah.
So if you ride Ghastly Nail as your first ride, it's actually not that good. Like, it's an 18k beat stick, and it pseudo draws you a card, which is okay, but I don't think it's good enough. Whereas if you ride Schwarzschild first, you have an immediate counterblast 1, kill one of their rearguards, which is always relevant.
Yeah.
And then if you draw a Schwarzschild later in the game, you can then rewrite it over your Messiah when you've run out of your unlock combos and still be able to like guard restrict, because you're still running a little bit of bind in the deck.
Yeah,
not a lot, but all of your bind is targeted, so you can control what grades you're binding. So then you know, like, oh, I'm going to bind your grade 1 booster, and then I'm going to bind your grade 2 thing, and then if they're stupid enough to leave a trigger on the board, you say, okay, I'm going to bind one of your triggers as well.
Yeah.
You can then rewrite Schwarzschild later, and then just end the game because the attack is unguardable.
For me, the reason
and especially against the meta now, which is like Shadows and Bermuda, you've got like all these early game pieces. Like Bermuda has the Melody grade 3s that will all get really big, and Shadows has the Maka that it uses to like plus into Oblivion, or like the Nemain that it uses to plus into Oblivion. You can just ride the Schwarzschild and just like kill their engine, and that's really powerful in this meta.
It is. Like, that's why I said that, like, I like the second skill, because I was playtesting this deck against Bermuda, and I realized at one point, my opponent had 1 Caro on the board, and I bound the Caro, and I was like, oh, I can use the skill now, so I actually, like, locked him from calling Caros the next turn, he literally couldn't push anymore, and I just won the next turn after that. So, like,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like, in this meta, I think the second skill is actually kind of relevant, too.
Yeah, especially like in Bermuda. Against Shadows, it's a bit less useful, but there is still potential. Again, also, like, if someone's still playing Bakayuki, if you kill an Arresta, that could just be a good game right there as well.
Yeah, that's true, Yeah, so that's the grade 3s explained. Now, going over the grade 2s, I think this is probably the favorite grade 2 here, which is the Blast Monk. So,
yeah.
Blast Monk has Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill, which is really hot. So, when he attacks the Vanguard, you may counterblast 1. If you do, you choose one of your opponent's Rearguards, anything, you bind it, and if it was a grade 2 or higher, then you can Soul Charge 1, or you have to Soul Charge 1. So, this is already good because, 1, I mean, you can bind anything, but obviously you're kind of, gearing for the grade 2 or higher, which again, in the Melody meta, is good because you're mostly going to be binding grade 3s. And you get that Soul Charge, which, as we said already, and you'll see from the cards we're going to go over later, that Soul is a very, very relevant resource.
Yeah, he's also a really good counterblast sink, which is the other reason I like Schwarzschild. So, you'd be surprised at how other end of the scale is the deck is on resources. Like, you look at OTT or Royal Paladin, those decks have Soul almost forever, but then, like, run out of counterblast after turn 2.
Yeah.
Whereas this deck has a lot of free counter charge, but requires a lot of Soul.
Yeah.
So he helps, like, fill that void.
Yeah, so it kind of balances itself out, but you need to be careful with the build, really.
Yeah, I'd say he's one of the more flexible pieces in that he can lean you towards either game plan. I think he's good for that reason.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, let's go over the next one, so we'll pan over everything else. Now, this is the one where, when the deck first came out through Daivangasai, when the set released, people weren't playing a lot of the Burst Monk, but now when I've seen some Japanese lists, they've been putting up the counts too, but we play 4 Burst Monks, and his skill is Rearguard Circle. When he is unlocked, you may counterblast 1. If you do, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it is... Oh, and add it to your hand. If that card is a grade 3, then you can discard 2 cards and restand your Vanguard, which is very high rolly, but it's that first part of the skill that we actually run so many copies of.
Yeah, like, the discard 2 cards to stand your Vanguard is entirely optional. So even if you do end up drawing a grade 3 of his skill, if you don't need to do it, just don't do it. Like, it's counterblast 1, draw a card.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that doesn't... It's really hard to come by, actually, because you have counterblast 1, kill a guy, like in Schwarzschild and in Thundering Foot.
Yeah.
But just counterblast 1 to actually plus is really hard to come by. Plus, he's your only benefit for unlocking. Like, you have all these cards that lock stuff, and then nothing that rewards unlocking. It's not like back in the old G era where we had the Good Boy Doggo, which was just busted.
Oh,
now
Doggo.
it's really hard to actually like get somewhere. So even if you first ride Harmonics and call out this guy, sure, it feels bad that you don't get to restand, but at least you get to draw a card, like, and that maybe you can find the rest of your pieces or the rest of your combo or re-ride. Like, this is the card I'm always searching with Harmonics, and the reason I'm running 4 instead of 2 or 3 is because you always want to have 1 in the deck to be able to search out with your Harmonics for the combo.
Exactly.
I think this card is really underrated.
No, yeah. I think people are catching on to it slowly, but I think like it really does need a bit more of the spotlight here and there.
Yeah.
Alright, so then our last grade 2 is going to be the Vect. So Vect is an interesting card, but also played pretty often. So he has a Rearguard Circle skill when at the end of the battle he attacked the Vanguard. If during that battle your opponent did not call any triggers, like guard with them, then you may counterblast 1, and if you do, you draw 1. Oh, and then you choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or higher rearguards and bind it. So it's already good because, like, it's kind of this mind gamey aspect, which there isn't a lot of in Standard. I mean, at least there wasn't until this set, really. Like, you know, it's really like Beast Deities in this that added that mind gamey aspect to some extent. But, you know, it's nice because it can pressure your opponent to guard with a trigger if they don't want you plussing, even if he's literally just swinging for, like, you know, a boosted, like, 17 or 18.
Yeah, like, again, similar to with Thundering Monk, he does a bit of both. He can either bind you for the Schwarzschild engine, or he just counterblast 1 to plus. There's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
At first, like, he was the slot that was under the most I was unsure about. It was between him and Gravity Well.
Yeah.
But I found that Gravity Well, it gave you a lot more ceiling, but took away your floor. And I feel that in, like, the format of Standard, where triggers, like, have a lot more impact and have a lot more sway on the game, then you just rather have the higher floor for the consistency, so that you don't... That way, you don't lose to yourself, and then you are more likely to win off of random triggers.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, so getting into grade 1s, we have the kind of poster grade 1 for Messiahs, which is the Destiny Dealer. So, Vanguard Circle on place, you may look at the top card of your deck and call it on the Rearguard Circle as a locked card. Second skill is Rearguard Circle once per turn, you may Soul Blast 1, and then you look at the top card of your deck and you may call it as a locked unit. So, same skill on both, but I believe the Vanguard Circle one is a lot more relevant because it's just an on-ride +1 on top of your already +1 from the starter.
Yeah, that's... The reason I don't play that many of the Destiny Dealer is just because, again, you don't really have the soul to be spamming for him.
Yeah.
You don't actually gain soul from anything other than Reriding and Thundering Monk. So, if you have a Destiny Dealer on your rearguard and you use it every turn, you'll find that you'll be unable to afford your countercharge engine, even though you do get to technically draw a card.
Yeah.
The other issue as well is, it's a bit awkward, like, placing stuff as lock, because... in the combo, what you really want to do is you want to have Destiny Dealer forward on the Force 1 marker, swing for 18, and then like have your Miss Harmonics either unlock him or call over him.
Yeah.
So you want to have something, you want to use his skill to call to the back row, but then if you end up calling a grade 2, it doesn't do anything. And if you want to call a grade 2 to the front row, you either have to call over your Destiny Dealer or one of your other existing pieces. And it's just like, well, if you call as lock to the front row during your main phase, that's just the battle that you've just lost an extra attack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, like I had some problems with this guy. Like sometimes, like I would have a perfect setup, and I'd be like, oh, but maybe I'll get something good out of the Destiny Dealer. I use it, and it just ruins the whole turn. It's just like, wow, I literally just bamboozled myself with that. You know?
Yeah.
So I really stopped. I kind of stopped using the Rearguard Circle skill unless I literally have an empty board and my hand is a brick. But if I already have a good setup in hand, I just leave that skill for later, or just you know, just let it sit there, let it marinate.
But in that same vein, like if your hand is really bad, or you know you're having struggles to pull off your combo, then just the raw plus from the rearguard skill can help you get there. It's not always bad.
It definitely isn't all bad. So, but again, it's not something you'd want to run as a 4 of. I think a 3 is a really good count for this card.
Yeah.
So all right, now arguably the one of the MVPs of the deck is the Caldron Wing. Yeah, Caldron Wing. So, Caldron Wing skill is an act rearguard circle. If you have on your Vanguard or rearguard circle a Harmonics Messiah, or if you have a locked unit, you may Soul Blast 1 and lock him, and if you do, you countercharge 1. So, countercharging is already good, but what's even better is that he self-locks, which is, like, absolutely amazing, because we want to be plussing off of that Harmonics.
Yeah, he's the only self-lock. I tried really hard to make it good.
Only self-lock in the whole clan. So, really, like, very, very important for that sense. And that's why, like if you have 2 of these or 3 of these in the back, that's going to be 3 Soul Blasts, you know, in one turn. That's why we said, like, the Soul is a really important resource in this deck. That's why, like, the Thundering Foot is so important in this deck, you know, in order to actually have the Soul to do all of these combos, etc. So this dude is really important, and he gives you countercharge, so nothing to really complain about.
It's just generically useful. Plus, the other thing I really like is that he is a 7k body, which means that if you're clever about things, and like, the reason I play 4 of this and not 4 of the Dealer, even though we said that Destiny Dealer is the better ride for the on-ride plus, I would rather have 4 of the 7k so that I can ride the 7k and swing under and deny damage in the early game, and then just go for the kill with the combo later.
Yeah.
That's the big reason we don't play 4 Dealer and 3 Caldron, because, again, Dealer is an amazing ride, and I would, if I had the choice to ride him every game, I would ride him every game. And I don't ever need multiple Caldrons on board. Like, I would never ever have 3 Caldrons on the board. 2 sometimes, 1 all the time, but never 3. So you're thinking, oh, 4 copies must be excessive, right? But again, like, I'm just never upset to see him. Plus, against decks like Shadow Paladins, where they're killing your board, having multiples to replace is quite useful sometimes. And
Kagero is going to become very relevant very soon.
Very soon, yeah.
So definitely good to have extra copies with cards like this. So that's one of our MVPs, and now we still have a couple more. So this one, oh god, there's a lot of kanji in her name.
Treasure Child of the Nuclear Magnetic Resonance.
Nice. So her skill is Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle that she boosted, if during that battle your opponent did not guard with any triggers, you may put her into the soul to give one of your other units plus 10k. So again, good for that little mind gaming aspect. Good because she provides soul, and good, like, literally the soul part is the most important. The 10k is also very nice, especially in standard, but the soul part is honestly the best part.
Yeah, I'm almost always putting this behind the Vanguard, because it's... Your opponent kind of already has to, like, think about guarding your Vanguard attack because if you have crit pressure.
Yeah.
So now you're telling them, well, perfect guard this, or I will just do so many things.
Yeah.
Because even if they 2 to pass, you'd be like, oh, I just rip triggers like a good player.
Yeah.
But the fact that the reason I put this behind the Vanguard almost all the time is because if they don't like call a trigger for her, or if they just no guard the Vanguard swing, what you can end up doing is you can stack the triggers so that you use the harmonics first to unlock everything, and then afterwards use her to give the things that you just unlocked 10k.
Yeah, yeah. So she is a good card. Very, like, I think she's quite simple, but still very effective in that sense. And then our final grade 1 here is gonna be the, what is it, Bale Rosa?
Veil Rouser, yeah.
Veil Rouser. I'm just like reading off the Japanese name. Okay, so his skill is either when your card is placed as a locked card, or when it's locked for that turn, he gains plus 5k. And this is an auto, so it will stack. So
yeah, he's like the new Metallian Messiah.
yeah,
almost.
Yeah. Not as good, but definitely like trying to become him. So
Yeah, so the reason I played this was, at first I kind of dismissed this. I played, I don't remember the name, but I played the grade 1 that forced your opponent to intercept.
yeah.
Like, and that was decent. But the thing about this is that if you're playing, you're kind of forced into choosing Force 1 almost all the time with this deck. There are very few exceptions, but I'll talk about that later. So you're almost having to play Force 1 just so that your combos actually do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He then gives you a payoff for your combos, like alongside the Blast Monk that restands.
Yeah.
So the thing about him is that you're always going to have at least one Caldron Wing somewhere on the field. You're probably going to want to have the Treasure Child, but least in the Vanguard.
Yeah.
So, given how your attack pattern works and the numbers that you're hitting with those patterns, having one of the Veil Rousers behind the initial locked column just really, really gives you that extra push, because it means that your numbers are always going to be big.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing as well is that if you're in a pinch and you don't have your good grade 2s, you can start with him first, and he'll always be at least 13 because you'll always have at least used your Caldron Wing.
Yeah.
So he'll always hit numbers. So he's just always a good first attack.
Yeah, he really is a really good card, and like at first I didn't really appreciate him enough, but then seeing how like the amount of like work he puts in with his numbers is really, really worth it. So definitely a good grade 1 and definitely worth playing as a 4 of here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so last few cards obviously are the triggers. We run a pretty simple lineup of 4 of the drop PGs, 4 heals, and 8 crits. So no 6 crit, and we did go with a hard crit focus, not 12 though. And so I think like the only do you want to talk about the trigger lineup?
Yeah, at first I started with 6/6 because the thing about Force, especially regarding stuff like Neo Nectar and Shadow Paladin, is that Force decks are all about the grind. They're all about outplussing your opponent and just being able to make it so your opponent eventually can't guard your attacks.
Yeah.
Now, draws are good for that reason because A, there are a plus. New draws are just better than old draws, that's just a fact. And you don't need crits as much because you're going to win the game eventually anyway, and crits just help you get there. But with this build, because you're much more combo reliant, because you're much more focused on the specific game plan of the multi-attacks, you have to play Force 1. And because you're playing Force 1, it means that you don't have any inherent crit pressure. So you need to have more crits so that your opponent is more forced into guarding. Because if they know that you're playing like 6/6 or even 8 draw 4 crit because you need to find your pieces, quotation marks, then at 3 damage, it's a lot safer to just no pass or 2 to pass your Vanguard swing, because they know that it's much less likely they're just going to die straight away. Whereas if you're playing a heavier lineup of crits, then all of your Vanguard attacks, even your Schwarzschild attack if you don't have the harmonics, is still like, oh, I might just die here. I have to like throw down 2 or 3 cards to give this a 3/2 to pass or no pass.
Yeah.
And that's just really powerful, even in the early game as well, because unlike Shadow Paladin, you don't have an early game.
Yeah.
So putting them from like 1 to 3 by grade 2 ride just gives you so much more breathing room.
Yeah, definitely. So the crit pressure is definitely very important to just like to make up for really what the rest of the deck is in a sense.
Yeah, there's a few other nuances as well. Like I mentioned with harmonics, because you have the search on attack, you don't need to find your pieces because the pieces kind of find themselves.
Yeah.
And the other great thing that people don't tend to notice, especially when you play this deck in the long game against Shadows, is that you have to call so many of your guys as important pieces for your combo, like the Veil Rouser and the Caldron Wing. It's actually very hard to guard. You end up with an abundance of grade 2s in hand, so you only have a bunch of 5k shields. So crits being 15k shields as opposed to draws 5k shields just means that it's a bit easier to like guard the Maka with one card, or guard the Blast the Dark with one card, and then keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, so that is it for this little deck preview segment of the video. So now we're going to jump into a game and take a look at it and see how the deck works in action. Alright, so this is going to be a game where we're playing against one of my friends, Ambersama. There's been quite a few of these videos. This is already like mid-mulligan that the recording started, so that's my own fault. But so this opening hand is like not all that optimal. Our grade 1 ride isn't all that good. Our grade 2 ride isn't good either. Our grade 3 ride is like okay. It's not, you know, harmonics at least. And we had 2 heals in hand. This is post-mulligan, so yeah.
Like in premium, this hand would be really good because you have G guards.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
here it's a bit weaker because you have the Ghastly Nail, who would have to lock one of your heals to get anywhere.
Yeah,
but the draws are pretty good. Like you've drawn the harmonics and you've drawn an extra grade 3 that you can always beat face with.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, I don't see you using Ghastly Nail skill this game on your grade 3 ride unless something weird, unless you draw like something really bad.
Yeah, I think I might have actually used it just to call the other Ghastly Nail, potentially.
Yeah.
But I don't quite remember. But yeah, and
something to keep in mind is that if you're ever going to use Ghastly Nail in the early game, I would almost, even if you're calling a grade 2 or 3, I would almost always call it to the back row. Because in the early game, your board's going to be empty, you're not going to be calling over anything.
Yeah.
And you don't want them to attack your Ghastly Nail to like, so you then lose an 18k attacker with.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I think like the thing is that I should also mention is that Ambersama here is actually using the Highlander build. We were mostly testing against Melody, but he wanted to play Highlander, so I was like, okay, sure, whichever you want to do, dude. And so yeah, and here I'm really drawing all my grade 3s here. Already like what, half of the grade 3s in the deck. So yeah, here we ride into the Vect. Drive check reveals our Caldron Wing, so that's actually pretty good. And you know,
yeah,
like,
you can't be upset about that.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said earlier, like you'll always be happy to see it. So that's already our first one checked off. Against the deck also that's not gonna be actually, you know, grabbing anything. Like against the deck that's not gonna be like taking out any of our stuff. And here we're just preparing forces and axles because he's playing Highlander. So yeah. Alright, so now we can see he's gonna ride into the 10k vanilla. Like for Highlander, there's not really like a predicted, you know, line of play or something. So, you know, it's kind of, we'll see how it goes, what he proceeds with. But like Highlander, you know, it's random, it's a fun deck, but it can steal wins here and there. Like I literally commentated over a game where Highlander took someone from 0 to 6. So, you know, everything's possible. Alright, so here he's swinging with the 10, gets a draw here as well, which is pretty hot. So, let's see, we're gonna get just the, what is it, the non-trigger girl thingy. And so here he's swinging with just the 10, I believe. And so here I kind of want to guard this, just because it's like, I mean, he got the trigger, but I don't really want to be pushed beyond the 2 damage. Like, I don't know, what do you think that was right to do there or not?
I think it was fine. Like, you had no idea that you were going to draw into another heal.
Yeah.
So you don't want to like take too much damage because, sure, you have plussing from the combo, but as the game goes on, you're going to struggle to guard longer turns.
Yeah. So here I'm actually using the Ghastly Nail to call down the Cauldron and draw a crit, which is like, ouch.
Which is totally fine. Like, yeah, again, you have no idea what you're drawing.
Yeah,
I would probably have just put the Cauldron on like one of the side columns, just in case, but
yeah,
it doesn't really matter where he goes, because he's always good.
Yeah, here he hits a draw, so he's now at 20. So here if I use the skill now, I would, which actually it's kind of fine to use it, because I have like pretty okay targets. I just run a bit lower on Soul. So, you know, I can also attack the rear, because the nice thing with Ghastly Nail is that he doesn't have to attack Vanguard for his skill. So that's actually pretty handy in that sense. So yeah, so this is going to be attacking for what, like 33 total?
Yeah, so a really fat number. That's one of the things that he is good for. It's just that in this particular scenario, like this early on in the game, I don't think you needed the numbers.
Yeah.
So I would probably have like held off a tiny bit.
Yeah, I think so too. But
again, like against Bermuda, I think you do definitely want to rush them, because even if it's the Highlander build, like once it hits their second grade 3 turn, their numbers are going to be really insane.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're going to struggle to like keep up with damage parity.
Yeah, exactly. So here I think he's just considering if he wants to keep it, because the thing is in Highlander, like everything is a 1-of. So it's like if he loses her here, he won't be able to have her again unless like he recycles it in some way. So he is actually going to guard it, because like this card is pretty interesting, because that grade 2 allows him to, like this grade 2 allows him to essentially like boost up the power to whatever the Vanguard is, or actually decrease the power to whatever the Vanguard is. So in Highlander, if you're putting forces on the Vanguard, you're getting power boost and everything, you can actually buffer up significantly in that sense too. So that's actually pretty nice. But I think at one point in this game, actually, I think he misread the skill or something, and he thought that it like just gave boost equal to what the Vanguard had in power. So that's, I think, some people misread it like that. But yeah, so it's like it actually just puts the power up to whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah. So he rides into the Caro, and here, this is where I think I told him that, like, oh, there's some Highlander builds that run, like, 2 or 3 Caros, just because then you can actually, like, use the skill to search it, which is then, like, you're still going to be playing Highlander, but at least then, like, you riding into it kind of, like, makes it a little bit better, because having a Caro on rearguard circle is going to be huge. So, yeah. But here he's debating on the Force.
The really big thing to mention about this game as well is, while he's deciding about that, the fact that you went first gave you the first grade 3 ride, which means that he won't have had as much time to farm up a big hand before you start harmonics comboing him.
Yeah, exactly.
So really, like, usually decks like Shadows don't care about if they go first or second. Like Kagero doesn't really care if it goes first or second.
Yeah.
But with Link Joker, it's kind of important to go first because you need to be able to set up your combo before your opponent starts doing unfair stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So, no, I agree on that as well. And, like, I think, especially here with, like, such a combo-reliant deck, like, especially if I would have pushed him to, like, maybe even 3 damage last turn, like, we could have probably popped off the combo next turn and probably won, like, while we're at it, in a sense. So,
yeah.
I think it's definitely a big strength in that sense. But I think here we also see, like, why, like, Melody is so much stronger than Highlander, because you can see, like, he's got a pretty big hand, just because he hasn't been calling that much, but at the same time, it's like, he hasn't really done much yet, So, whereas, like, Melody would be, like, popping off here and there, like, left and right, making huge columns on the first grade 3 ride, and pressuring us a lot, because, like, we don't have that much shield in hand either. It's, like, what, sort of like 55, I mean, with the triggers, so it's, like, a 70 in total, but, I mean, that's, like, guarding, what, like, 1 Melody attack?
Yeah.
Yeah, and here he actually switches the grade 3 right target, which is, like, it's fine, especially because it's, it's the Highlander build. So I think here you just wanted to give the intercept skill for the next turn in order to actually defend against the combo, which I think is a good call too. So, let's see. So he's still making up his mind here, and that's, I mean, part of the reason why I speed up the games usually is because, like, I sometimes take my time with some turns with some decks, and then, sometimes my opponents take time with their turns with some decks as well. So yeah, then he calls down the Searcher. This is the one that, like, you can drop 2 grade 3s to search a grade 4, which is pretty good, but again, you're kind of tied to running just 1, but it doesn't look like he has a second grade 3 in hand. So, he attacks here for 18. I decided to take it, because the other 2 attacks are pretty easy to guard as well. So here is just going to be a 13, so I 2 to pass it. He gets a regular and a crit, so that's going to be, putting the rear guard to 20k, which is still a 10k guard. But here, this is, I think, where he, like, misread the skill, where he thought that he could add extra power to it, and I think here I had to explain to him that, like, there's really no reason to pay the counterblast, because his power, it's like, either he would
It's already bigger than the Vanguard, yeah.
Unless he
what he should have done was, what he should have done is, because he knows he has that skill, he should have put the crit on the rear and then power to the Vanguard.
Only thing is that the crit was the second check. If the crit was the first check, then yes. Like, I think...
Does it matter? No, I don't think it matters.
I 2 to passed it though, so it's like putting the
Yeah, but you still put the power on the Vanguard anyway, because the Vanguard's just naturally bigger than the grade 3. Because then he becomes 23 instead of 20.
Good
which
point.
Means that you now need to go with 20k, not 15.
Yeah, that's true. So that would have...
The way it is now, exactly. Because now it's just 20k, so you can just guard with a spare Caldron Wing.
Yeah,
and, like, not have to worry. Whereas the other way, you'd have to guard with a heal trigger, and that would suck.
Yeah, that's true. So I think here we were, like, debating. I think he was debating whether he wants to use the skill or not for a little bit. And I think here, actually, like, I think he chooses not to do it. And I'm pretty sure I might have actually dropped the heal for this. I'm not sure. Or do I drop the Caldron? Was I smart? Or was I
hope
stupid?
you dropped the Caldron.
I don't think I did. If it's the heal, I'm retarded.
Let's talk a bit about the next turn. Like, what we should have been talking about while this was going on is, I think the next turn what you should have done is, what you should be about to do is, ride the harmonics, leave the nail on the board, and then, So force there you go. Call literally anything to that attacker, probably like the heal, because you don't need as much, or the Caldron Wing.
Yeah.
Because whatever's going on that right side force, it's just being called over.
Yeah.
So you went for the thing, that's fine, like, Because you have the Counterblast to spare, you've got 3 face-up damage, you've got the Caldron Wing. That's the right play for sure now.
Nice. Okay, we're good, boys. The master approves.
Well, so now, the right play now is to attack with the monk unboosted.
Let's see if I'm smart enough to do that. I think I had enough brain cells. I think the logical connection in my brain was made. Well, let's see if it really was.
Let's see if you also Caldron Wing for the extra 5k to both your guys.
Yeah.
Nope,
okay.
he doesn't Caldron.
Wait, going back to main phase. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm pretty sure I was like counting soul, and I have like.
Yeah, exactly one.
I have exactly enough. Yeah, so I get to still lock it just to have it locked, and then I'm pretty sure. Ooh, what is he doing? What is he doing? He's hovering over the booster.
Skills.
Yeah, I think probably actually was. Oh, I boosted. God damn it! We were so close.
You lost 50k shield for no reason.
Yep. Alright, so
I mean, that's still fine.
Yeah. Combust 1 to bind, get a soul charge. It's not a trigger. We out here. You know, all good. But sadly, I boosted like the ape that I am. And so he takes that.
I mean, that's lucky, because if he'd gotten a trigger, then your other column would have literally been the biggest depression.
Yeah, actual
Pepega place. There are some things, like, you can still use the Ghastly Nail to kill your Ruser and put down a Caldron Wing over it, which is a bit depressing. I think that's what you're doing.
Yep.
No?
The big actual greedy.
Wow! What is this? Not calling the monk?
Just so greedy. Draws the Schwarzschild as well. Yeah, no, I mean, I was like, I want to make magic numbers. I was like, well, the monk isn't hitting for magic numbers anymore because I was stupid enough to boost. So I just like it
extends you a bit of a combo, but it just leaves you a bit more vulnerable. Because what I would have done is
it's super greedy.
I would have gone with the Vanguard first to call the monk over the blast monk.
Yeah.
And then leave your Ghastly Nail as an attacker.
Yeah.
Because now what you're having to do is you're now going to attack with the Vanguard and call over the Ghastly Nail with a restand monk.
Yeah.
Which means now if he perfect guards you, your triggers become super wasted.
Exactly. So let's see what I do here, because it was definitely pretty Pepega. He does PG, so we'll see what we get. Obviously we go for the Burst Monk on the front row. He's gonna PG. Don't forget to shuffle. And now we still get our 2 drive checks before we're gonna be able to use a skill. So let's see what we get. So we get Effect. And do we get a wasted trigger? Do we? I can't remember what we're talking about here.
I think he's still discarding for the PG.
Yeah, he was, right.
There you go.
Okay, so we get a Vect, and we get a draw.
Wasted trigger.
Wasted trigger, but at least it's not a crit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, for once, it's like, you're happy to not see a crit. So here we're going to be able to do Harmonics. We're going to be able to count us 1, and...
Discard the right card. Oh.
It's so baity.
The Vect is the right card, by the way.
I know, but I'm pretty sure I either take... I don't think I'd take the Schwartz. I think that's just too greedy. Like, this whole turn is so greedy. But, oh yeah, I think at one point he retired instead of binding something. So I was like, oh, you have to, like, make sure it's bound.
Because you have the Schwarzschild in hand, yeah.
It's okay, I guess.
It's fine. Yeah. It's a slightly bigger shield value, which is nice.
Yeah.
So.
And so here I draw 3 for the unlocks. And now we still get to use the Burst Monk to count us 1 and reveal the top card. And so, oh yeah, we give the plus 15k to our front rows from the Messiah. Reveal the top card.
Yeah.
Pox Champ, it's a grade 3!
Wow! That's incredible.
I remember, I was like, when we were playing this, I was like reading off the skill. It was like, okay, so now I check the top card if it's a grade 3 or it's 10. Oh! And it was just like, oh wait, shit, I actually get to do it. Cage. And when the grade 2 is unlocked, I can count us 1, reveal the top card. If it's a grade 3, my Vanguard restands. But I have to discard 2. So that happens. And this goes to my hand. What the fuck?
How do you know that's a grade 3 actually?
I didn't know.
What the fuck? You sound know it. You sound like
yeah, I know.
You sound like so calm. I
was just reading the skill and then I was like, oh wait, shit.
You were like playing OTT. No one's a top.
Oh my gosh.
You were like so calm. I was so calm too.
So this was pretty, like, this is legit as high early as you could get. Because remember, on our grade 3 ride, we had already half of our grade 3s out.
Yeah.
By now we have, there's literally,
I think, 1 left.
There's 1 left. There's,
1 or 2.
Yeah, 2. I think one Schwarzschild and 1 Harmonics. That's all that's left.
If you're feeling particularly sacky, what you could also have kept the other monk on or no, you call the other monk off of the near harmonics attack this time, because it's not once per turn,
Yeah, yeah,
and just like keep going, but it's a bit much. There's no need for that.
yeah.
So here's the thing about the plus 15k now. So now you're looking at like a 25k monk and then a 38k harmonics on the rearguard. So you're
Yeah.
like, oh, if you had force 2, it'd be really good right now because you'd have crits on your rearguards. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
but at the same time, the first 2 attacks would have been a lot less threatening.
Yeah, literally nothing,
And
basically.
I see more value in the first attacks being like a bit more powerful, because the idea is that you should be able to drive check crits like that anyway.
Yep. So here we take him from 4. Let's see if he gets a heal. Nope, it's gonna go right to 6. So that's absolutely game. Like, I think here he was just like mousing over my whole board. He was like, what the fuck is this? Because that was like actual, like, we played tested quite a few games, but that was by far like the most greedy and sacky that I've, like, of all the games I've had. I think I was like particularly greedy because I was just trying to actually close it out there. Because I was also like, I want 3 damage. As long as I run into 1 PG, I'll be fine, you know? So
Yeah.
that part of me was thinking, it should be okay, you know, it can't be that bad. So that's the part of me that thought it was okay, but what's your verdict on that whole game?
I think you got rewarded for an unnecessary risk.
Yeah.
There's a few decisions here and there that you could have like optimized slightly better, especially with like how you make your columns. Like for example, you ride grade 3 and you get force. You call a guy to the force, which is fair, but calling the other grade 3 seems a bit much. Like I would have wanted to save that second Ghastly Nail for your big combo turn, especially because like if you draw a monk, like the restand monk later, it becomes a bit of a brick. Whereas if you at least keep the Ghastly Nail, you can then call the monk and then get your full combo off anyway with the double. Well, you're not going to get a double restand, but you get to counterblast 2 to draw 2 cards and get 2 chances to restand, which is really valuable.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I was a bit too greedy in a lot of ways there, so definitely could have been played better.
The boosting your first attacker was like, oh no!
Yeah, we almost had it, boys, but not quite there yet, so maybe one day. It's good that we have the Link Joker Extraordinaire joining us to criticize my plays. But yeah, so thank you so much, guys, for watching. This one is a bit longer than the usual deck previews, but it's also a lot more in-depth and a lot more detailed, so I hope you guys appreciate that. Yeah, no promises on next deck previews, because I usually don't enjoy this, but actually having guests is pretty fun. That makes the video a lot more enjoyable to make. But yeah, so thank you so much to Zystral for joining me. Your knowledge and, you know, in-depth analysis of Link Joker as a clan is very much appreciated. So
yeah, no problem.
yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out stuff in the description as always, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.